Point Elementary is one of the 8 remaining Rosenwald school buildings in Pender County. The one-room schoolhouse sits next to Man Hollow Missionary Baptist Church in Hempstead. In the early 1900s, Julius Rosenwald created a fund to provide education to African Americans in the rural South. That money helped build more than 5,000 Rosenwald schools. More than 800 of those schools were in North Carolina.
This local history feature is sponsored by the NC Department of Health and Human Services. We can help manage the impact of COVID-19 in our communities by taking control and staying up to date. Visit myspot.nc.gov to find safe and effective vaccines near you.